Recording in progress.
Okay. Yeah. Yes, and again. Okay. Good evening, everyone. This is the May 2023 Chicago Computer Society Computer Club. This evening we have a presenter, Bill James from the Oklahoma Computer Group, to give a presentation on Windows 11 to pair up with Bert's presentation on the west side at the beginning of the month. So I am going to turn it over to Bill right now and let him do the presentation.
Thank you, Tim, and thank you everyone for inviting me. It's a pleasure to do this. And I wanted to give a shout out to Bert Good. I did go and watch his video, and it was an outstanding presentation of Windows 11. And it was really heartening to find someone that's a purist like myself. As I use the vanilla version of Windows 11, I don't do any modifications. I try to use it out of the box. So for some to hear someone that espoused the same philosophy that I have was actually really just heartwarming because I've been criticized numerous times for my views on how I approach Windows. So Bert, thank you so much.
Thank you, Bill.
And what I'm going to do this evening is not to trample on Bert's outstanding presentation. I'm going to talk about Windows 11 22H2. So it's going to be kind of a, a an extension of what his outstanding presentation was. So so let's get started, and I'm going to bring up my PowerPoint. First, I need to share my screen. This is always I always get kind of bumfuzzled doing this, but there is a way to do it. Just that is all right. So we got it. Okay. Can everybody see my? Whoops! What did I do here?
You were there, but you're not.
I was there, but not there. Hold on. Let me try again. All right. I think
Okay.
I hit the wrong button here. What I want to do is hide the screen. Okay. So this presentation is brought to you by the APCUG Speakers Bureau, and it's a benefit of your membership. So thank you for being a member of APCUG. Well, we all know that Windows 11 is here. The newest version is 22H2, and it's now available. And it was first launched in October of 2021. And well, Windows 11 came about in October 2021. So 22H2 was really the first major update to the operating system, and it was launched in September of 2022. There has been design changes, interface changes, and nuisance changes that differentiate the two versions. So we're going to look at the pros and cons, what changes have been made since Windows 10 and what features have been added. So this should help you understand why it's a good idea that you might want to upgrade to Windows 11. And like most people, changes, for myself, changes can be difficult, but updating your familiar system can also be frustrating. and that's why so many people put off the update as long as they can. There are a surprising number of systems that still use Windows 2000, and if the performance suits their needs, they don't see a reason to change a system that is already working. There are also other people who are excited about every update. They can't wait for the new versions to have a release date assigned. They see the new version as an opportunity to learn and grow right alongside human technical advancement. They're interested in learning more about the changes, and they appreciate the new design choices that are intended to make the interface more user friendly. We need to take into account both extremes when choosing between Windows 10 and 11. There are people that can't wait to update and those who are content with Windows 10 indefinitely. There can be a happy medium where we all can agree that not every change is inherently good, just to be different. But we also have to continually move forward with the advancement of computer interface technology. In due course, things are meant to grow, change, and adapt. More and more people are adapting to Windows 11 as time goes on, and we're going to go over why. Microsoft has provided a free PC health check app to help you see if your Windows 10 PC is compatible with Windows 11. To use it, you download the app and install it on your Windows 10 PC. When you run it, locate the Introducing Windows 11 section near the top of the window and click Check Now. The Health Check app will run a quick check on your system, and after a few moments, you will see the results. If the message says this PC can run Windows 11, then you're good to go. If you see a message that reads this PC can't run Windows 11, then your device doesn't meet the system requirements for Windows 11. Microsoft mentions that you still will get Windows 10 updates going forward. Windows 10 will continue to be supported through October 14th of 2025. If your PC fails this test unexpectedly, make sure Secure Boot is enabled in your BIOS, then restart Windows and run PC Health Check test again. If that didn't work, consult the list of system requirements above. And I wish you good luck. The similarities, well, first of all, I need to explain about my PC. This is a Samsung um Galaxy Flexbook. It originally was purchased with Windows 10 and it has been upgraded to Windows 11 based on the criteria I just explained. And there was no problem. I just went ahead and upgraded from Windows 10 to Windows 11. I used my Microsoft account, and all my apps and programs and everything just came back to this PC with little no effort on my part. So I was really up and running. My previous PC was an IBM ThinkPad that was probably 11 years old. It was running Windows 10. And so I upgraded to this Samsung um, box, and it's a laptop, and it has run with very few issues. But to continue on, the similarities and differences between the two versions is self-evident if you look at the specs and features. In addition to better performance, the new features are a large reason to upgrade. Windows 10 and Windows 11 both have their pros and cons, which will help customers to decide which version to use. The system requirements can be problematic. Certain motherboards and processors are not currently supported. But if you're offered an update to your motherboard BIOS, take advantage of it. And here's some of the requirements. I think we've gone over this before. The difference between Windows 10, the processor was a 1 gigahertz or faster. That's the same requirements for Windows 11. The RAM for Windows 10 was 1 gigabytes. For Windows 11, they should recommend 4. The storage is 32 gigabytes or larger hard disk. On Windows 11, it's a 64 gigabyte or larger. Your graphic card should be compatible with DirectX 9 or later and WDDM 1.1 driver. And for 11, it's DirectX 12 or later with WDDM 2.0 driver. The display for Windows 10, the minimum was 800 by 600. And for Windows 11, they recommend high definition 720p or greater with a 9 inch diagonal and 8-bit per color channel. In other words, they're going more for the landscape display rather than the portrait in previous versions of Windows. And of course, internet connection and a Microsoft account connectivity is necessary to perform updates and downloads to take advantage of some of the features in Windows 10. And in Windows 11, the Home Edition requires an internet connectivity and Microsoft account, which wasn't a requirement in the previous version of Windows. So if you see the message that reads, this PC can't run Windows 11, then your device doesn't meet the system requirements for Windows 11. But Microsoft mentions that you still can get the Windows 10 updates going forward, and Windows 10 will continue to be supported through October of 2025. And of course, if your PC fails to meet the test unexpectedly, you should make sure the secure boot is enabled in your BIOS. I mentioned that before. So, what's the difference between Windows 11 and Windows 10? And this is just some of the things that I have noticed. The first key difference is speed. Windows 11, for me, seems to better process data and organize memory usage better than Windows 10. It also strategizes how to allocate resources to the various running programs. It also minimizes programs that will obviously receive less attention so that the active programs function better. The new design, in my opinion, of Windows 11 is much more simplified. The start menu has been moved to the center along with the taskbar. I like the pastel colors and the rounded corners, and it has a very user-friendly Mac-like style, but it's still distinctively enough to be the Windows operating system. As we see here, this is a screenshot of the Windows 11 desktop. And as you can see, the start menu looks much different from what it was in Windows 10. The tiles are gone, and it's been replaced with icons. And of course, the taskbar has moved to the center. It's a free upgrade. If you had Windows 10, 7, 8, or 8.1, you can upgrade if your PC is capable to Windows 11 for free. And again, this is the things that you would see on your screen. If you were offered the opportunity to upgrade, it'll come up and say your PC is capable of running Windows 11. And to do so, you just need to click on the blue button that says download and install. However, if you elect that you want to remain on Windows 10, you want to move over to where it says stay on Windows 10 for now. And I have a PC that I have that's capable of running Windows 11, but currently I have liked it for it to remain on Windows 10 because I need to support people that still have Windows 10 are not using Windows 11. So downloading is pretty simple. You go to the start, settings, update and security, click on download and install, choose a time that works best for you, restart your device, and start using Windows 11. And as you're upgrading, you will keep all your settings that you had in Windows 10. If you want to wait, as I said earlier, you just click on stay on Windows 10 for now. So what's new about Windows 11? Well, Microsoft views Windows 11 as a one size fits all computing solution that runs on laptops and desktop PCs as well as on touchscreens, including tablets. Whether that's good or bad, but that's the way Microsoft's philosophy is that they want to have a operating system that works across a broad array of devices, which has some problems in itself, but we just that's just their model, their business model. Windows 11 looks and behaves almost identically on each device. That's the beauty of it. And it brings as a bonus apps and programs that will run on Windows 11 tablets, PCs, or laptops. And besides aiming to run on everything but clock radios, Windows 11 brings these changes to your computer. Of course, we have new hardware requirements, a new settings app, apps on the desktop, apps that are small apps. I mean, are small programs from the world of phones and tablets, and they no longer consume the full screen as did in Windows 8 or 8.1. Windows 11 lets you choose whether to run apps full screen or within desktop windows. And of course, there's a redesigned File Explorer, which we will talk about. Team chat. When everybody jumped onto Zoom with video chats during the pandemic, Microsoft decided to push its own team app for people to hold online meetings. Also, your phone, the newly revamped Your Phone app lets you send and receive your phone messages from the keyboard of your desktop PC, all wirelessly. You can browse your phone's latest photos from your desktop, make phone calls, even run apps. I covered your phone app, and I'll talk about that some. And then there's widgets. They're simply a strip of little windows that update automatically to show the latest news, weather, and other informational tidbits. Um, and they link to your screen with a click of its taskbar icon. Compatibility. Uh, Windows 10 could run on many older PCs, making it popular with owners of older Windows 7 PCs. That's not the case now with Windows 11. The timeline, Windows 10 kept track of which programs and files you worked with for the past 30 days from the last week. Windows 11 removes that feature, offering no replacement. These are things that's what's missing in the new operating system. The movable taskbar, the Windows taskbar, normally lives along the screen's bottom edge. In previous Windows version, it let you move the taskbar to any edge you wanted. Uh, Other things that are missing, there's no longer a tablet mode that was designed specifically for tablets with touchscreens. Tablet mode quickly space your icons further apart to accommodate thick fingertips. Windows 11 dumps the tablet mode because Windows 11 is automatically finger friendly. The live towels on the start menu are gone. Um, they sometimes resembling a moving marquee with animated tiles that change to show different things. Windows 11 ditches that automated feature in favor of a simpler menu that merely shows static icons. The start menu for storing related items such as Internet Explorer, Microsoft's elderly browser, Internet Explorer disappeared completely from Windows 11 and it was replaced with the new browser, Microsoft Edge. Cortana got fired uh, as it tried to help you work, but mostly got in the way. You can still use Cortana app from the start menu, but it no longer bothers you. You'll still find it in all apps if you still want to use it and got really familiar with it. Uh, Paint 3D. Paint 3D lets you design three-dimensional models from 3D printers to create user layers of plastic. Few people used it, and even fewer will notice it. Will notice that it's even missing. I remember when I first saw it, it was in all apps. It was the guy at the very top, and it had this 3D paint. And I took a look at it and decided that I didn't really understand it, so I didn't really do much to try to learn how to use it. Skype, Microsoft paid billions for Skype, an app for making inexpensive or free phone calls using internet, but it kind of languished and it's been replaced by Teams, a program for creating online meetings. Although I still, you can still use Skype, but it's not something that's in their in the forefront. So the big question is, why does Windows 11 keep changing? Well, Windows 10 updated itself seamlessly at a whim, much to the detriment of people who preferred their PCs to look and behave the same whenever they sat at the keyboard. But who wants a computer with a confusing new doodad tossed in overnight? So Microsoft aims to ease that confusion by updating Windows 11 only once a year. Apps, by contrast, can still be updated whenever the app's creator decides that it's time for a change. Microsoft also sends many of these updates automatically to your computer through Windows Update. You don't need to jump through hoops to find and install them. So similarly, your apps update themselves automatically through the Microsoft Store. And I would suggest that periodically you go to the Microsoft Store and you will find a notification in that store that says if you want to update all the apps at one time, you can do that because they consistently add features and squash bugs and sometimes even change their names. But you may not notice these changes in the apps as well as in Windows 11 itself. So if you go to the store, you'll probably be able to find the updates. Uh, the other thing is that when Windows 11 or its app change overnight, don't think it's your fault. Microsoft is constantly tweaking Windows 11, and Windows and its apps will keep changing for years to come. You have to remember, too, that Windows 11 is a service, which means it gets better through periodic software updates. And the great news about that is that you usually don't have to do anything if you have enabled automatic updates. New updates will automatically download and install whenever they're available, so you don't have to even think about it. So let's look at some of the new features of 22H2. There's a new task manager with a modern interface. There's new live captions feature to improve understanding of the spoken content. There's a new voice access feature to control a device with your voice. There's new touch gestures for tablets. New smart apps control feature to block dangerous apps. And some of the legacy interface has visual changes. There's also an updated focus feature with focus sessions integration, updated File Explorer with tabs and redesigned navigational pane, updated quick settings with options to control Bluetooth devices, an updated print queue and print dialog apps with automatic printer detection. There's an improved power management tweak to reduce energy consumption, and there's an option to uninstall updates from the Settings app. Windows comes in 4 different flavors. There's the Windows Home, which is a standard version. There's Windows Pro, which adds networking, and there's the Windows Enterprise version for business, and Windows 365, which is a cloud-based version. So that's at the 22H2 in detail. So first of all, 22H2 is going to bring new settings to customize the recommended section in the start menu. While it's still not possible to disable and remove the feature, you can now choose from 3 different options in the Start Setting page to show fewer recommended items and more pins, including more pins, default, and more recommendations. So here is what you will see in that menu. As you see here, the first example is more pins, where there's more apps actually on the start menu. And I'm going to try and show this for my PC. So I'm going to hit the, see if I can do this. I want to, all right. I want to share my screen. And what we're talking about here, can everybody still see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So when I go here to my start menu, you notice here I have 3 rows of pinned apps. With 22H2, they allow me now to customize this. So if I go to my settings menu, and I go to down to start.
Starts under personalization.
Yeah, personalization. Thank you. Please give me help because I'm all right. So here in personalization, you see the choices I have. I right now it's set at default because that's what I'm using, but I could go to more pins, which would allow me to have more rows of pinned apps. And then the opposite of that, if I wanted to have less pinned apps and more recommendations, I would choose this. So that is a change that has occurred with 22H2. All right, so let's get back to my PowerPoint. So that's what we're seeing here. So the more pins only shows a single row of items and allows you to show more pins. The default option shows the 3 rows of recommended items and 3 rows of pin items, and the more recommendation offers more recommended items and 2 rows of pins. Um, oops, I got ahead of myself here. Sorry about that. I think I got ahead of myself. Yeah. So there's a good representation of more pins, the default, and more recommendations. So in addition to the new version, it adds another entry in the right-click context menu for the recommended and more buttons in the start. This is something that I found really helpful. Is that if you are in, say for instance, the start menu, you can right-click, and it will allow you to go to the start settings menu right here. So if you want to make a change, you can just right click in a blank spot and click Start Settings, and it will take you to the personalization menu, which is what I should have done when I was trying to demonstrate that earlier. So I found that really helpful, and that feature is in other areas too, which I will attempt to demonstrate if I don't get too off the beaten path here. So So as you can see, in addition to the new version, another entry is the right-click context menu for the recommended and more buttons in the start menu. So just by right-clicking, it will take you to the start settings, or it will refresh. And as part of the power menu settings, Windows also adds quick access button that opens the sign in options page as well. So what they're saying is that that button, let me go back to the start menu, it's down in the lower uh, right hand corner. You'll find the power button option, uh, which is here. Now, these buttons right here, they are user defined. If you go to the start menu, you can add or more buttons. So in this case, I've added settings, I've added personal folder, I've added network, and I've added documents. And those are my choices. And I did that by going to, again, personalization, if I can do that. I'm going to go to the settings menu and go back to personalization. So see here where it says folders. So if I click this tab, I can turn on settings, documents, network, and personal folders. And that matches up with what I have here. And if I turn one of those off, which I will do, and then bring it back, I turned off network. And when I bring it back up, you'll notice that network is no longer there. If I turn it back on, uh, now we have network is back. So that these buttons right here really correspond with the Windows 10 start menu where you had folders that were listed on the above. I, I can't remember exactly where, but you could also have those same buttons displayed on that start menu. All right, so let's move on. Go back to my PowerPoint here, and we'll go to the next slide. So I talked about the start menu, the sign in and sign off, where you can, do the sleep shutdown, and that's that little power button that was displayed on my start menu. So the other thing is the Windows Ease of Access folder that has been renamed to Accessibility, the Windows Terminal to Terminal, Windows Media Player to Windows Media Player Legacy. And another big feature of the Start menu is folders. You can drag an app on top of another to create a folder, and you can add more apps to a folder, rearrange apps within the folder, and remove apps from that folder. So what we're talking about here is that if you go to my Start menu, I have a folder like Microsoft Office, and in here I have moved Word, PowerPoint, Excel, OneNote, and this Microsoft 365 um, icon, which actually is a, a launch for the Office products. Really, it's hard to describe exactly what that is, but when you click on that, you will see all your uh, files that you have with in Word, Excel, PowerPoint, etc. They're all listed. For instance, if I click on this, which I just did, hold on, and you see here, this is that it's sort of a portal for everything. And I have home, but then I have Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, OneDrive. And then on this side, these are all the files that I've used uh, recently, and they show up in this area. You also can create new files or documents by clicking on the respective um, app. Like if I want to create a new document, I click here. If I want to click on a new presentation, start a new workbook, etc. So that's all contained in that particular app. Um, and here's an example of that where you can see uh, the folders that have been superimposed. And all it requires is you just drag whatever app that you want to contain over the other one. It works similar to what was in Windows 10 in the live tiles when you could pull an app over a tile and it would then become a folder. And it also gives you the opportunity to rename those once you've done that. If you would create a new one, you can name that folder. Like in this case, the calendar and mail is being combined together, and they're calling it Mail Apps. The taskbar page, the taskbar has gone through some changes as well. On the taskbar page, under taskbar behavior settings, you'll find new options to disable the flashing apps and recent search history when hovering over a search button. Also, the taskbar corner icon settings have been renamed to system tray icons, and the taskbar corner overflow settings to other system tray icons. Furthermore, starting with the update KB 5018496, Windows 11 restores the Task Manager option in the taskbar context menu. So now what I can do, if I right click anywhere on my taskbar, I get settings. Oh, wait, I didn't do that right. Here it is. I get taskbar, I get Task Manager, which becomes very handy. That wasn't available before. So when I right click on that, I can go directly to the Task Manager, which brings up Task Manager. That was a change. That came about with 22H2. Um, and also in the personalization area for the taskbar, you can uh, enable or show flashings on the taskbar apps or not by checking that box, or you can show your recent searches and just by unchecking or checking that box. So you can make those changes if you so desire. Also, again, you can see that you can do the automatic hide the taskbar, show badges, and do all those things in personalization taskbar. And there's a graphic to show that. Some other changes is that in the taskbar, you can now scroll the mouse wheel in the taskbar volume icon to change the volume level. Since I'm using a laptop, we'll have to do it a little bit differently. But what I can do, if I go here to hold on. Okay, So if I go here, this is my volume uh, slider. If you're using a mouse with a wheel, you can adjust that with just by using the wheel. But I can also do it by just scrolling on my trackpad, and it'll do the same thing. So that's trivial, but I mean it does work. So and likewise, on the taskbar settings page, you can now find the option to enable or disable the ability to share a window from the taskbar on apps like Microsoft Teams. So if you're running Teams, all you would have to do is just right click on Teams. Like say I'm going to do Zoom. See whether it doesn't let me do that. See here. What I want to do is share. What I wanted to do is be able to share. It's not going to let me. It probably has to do. Let me do here. I should be able to share that, but and I may not have that turned on. I have to go look again. I can't. I thought I had turned it on, but maybe I didn't. But you can would be able to share a window from a taskbar on apps like Microsoft Teams, but it's not restricted to just Microsoft Teams. And there's where you would make that setting change. The other thing about is taskbar overflow. The new version also introduces a taskbar overflow feature, which makes it easier to switch and launch apps when you don't have a lot of space on your taskbar. According to Microsoft, the taskbar will automatically transition into this new overflow mode when it reaches the maximum capacity. And what will happen in the past, if you remember, you would have a vertical bar which had up arrows and down arrows, which allowed you to go to additional to the overflow. In Windows 11, that's been replaced by three dots. While in the overflow mode, the taskbar will offer an entry point to a overflow menu that allows viewing to the apps in one space. So it features many taskbar behaviors, including support for pinned apps, jump lists, and extended interface. After invoking overflow, the menu will quietly dismiss once you click outside of it or navigate to an application. 22H2 also brings some changes to the quick settings flyout, including a new option to open Bluetooth and devices setting page when right clicking the Bluetooth button. In addition, there's a new icon next to the volume slider to make this option more discoverable. Also, two tips on the sound icon that has been updated to show when you're using spatial sound. So in this case, uh, again, we were talking about being able to right click on any settings. This also holds true for the quick access menu. So if I right click, say for instance on my Bluetooth here, it will allow me to go directly to those settings. This So I would just click that and it would take me directly to Bluetooth. So that's really quite handy. And the same thing if I wanted to go to settings for my Wi-Fi, it would take me there. So I think those is really helpful, particularly if you want to quickly get to a setting without having to go back to the start menu and hitting the settings button and then having to scroll down to find it. You can quickly get to them just by right clicking on whatever changes you want to make, and you'll get there the same way. So, say if you want to go to cast, I can take it and it takes me uh, to the casting area. Let's see. So in the notification center, the experience improves the visibility of app names for notifications. In addition, the notification design has been updated to include an acrylic background, and the automation used in Windows Hello notification when setting up the feature has been updated. And here's an example of that. And this is where we're talking about the acrylic appearance. Also, the transparency is that notice back here there's yellow icons, and that color has been picked up by the taskbar. And likewise on this side, where that color, the blue, has also been picked up here. So just cosmetic things that makes it interesting. Microsoft has also updated the notification system. For example, the three high priority notifications will appear stacked simultaneously in apps that you send notifications for calls, reminders, and alarms. And what that basically means is that when you go to your notifications, you'll see here you'll have uh, multiple ones that are actually will be stacked on one another. Uh, your priority ones plus the one uh, that have a normal priority. And also, Windows 11 brings the updated flyout design for the system hardware indicators, including volume, brightness, camera, privacy, and so forth. And I think we saw those a while ago when I was looking at uh, the, the notification center. Um, So the other thing is that when using Windows key Alt plus K, uh, you'll find it'll be a flyout for muting your Microsoft Teams call. But let's see if it works in Zoom. So I'm going to do the Windows key plus Alt and a K and see if it offers me to mute my well, in this case, I guess it only works in Teams, but what it will do, it will be able to mute uh, your your calls. But in this case, it's saying it's no support, so that doesn't work in that case. Uh, all right. Oh, so the next thing is the in the this is how it would look. Might mute it for Microsoft Teams if we were using that. So you can also see where uh, the oh, everything's jumping around on me. Where the volume control now has changed, and I have seen that, is that when you change the volume, it will show at the bottom of the screen just above the taskbar. Furthermore, you can include terminal entry to open Windows Terminal as an app in the new system default for all the command line applications. The Windows PowerShell entry will appear if the console is not available. Also, Windows 11 now shows the estimated battery life in the tooltip with the battery icon in the systems tray. Here's the when you right click on your start menu, you'll get this menu that shows the installed apps plus all the other things that are available to you. The Windows task view has changed, and that's the Windows key plus tab. So if I do the Windows key plus tab, you'll see something that looks like this, and it shows all the apps. And when you open the task view on a system with multiple monitors, the background should be acrylic on both monitors. They've also added a new way to snap windows for both touch and mouse. And you can try it by dragging a window to the top of the screen to reveal the snap layout. So if I was to uh, drag something to the top, a application to the top, you notice I will have a, let's see if it will work here. Probably not on Zoom, but if I move my mouse to the top area here, you will see where it would then bring up some snap icons, and I'll show you in the PowerPoint where
James, I
you
think,
can see this area right here. When I
James,
move that up to the top, then it gives me these different configurations where I could then choose to snap that particular application.
yes, in the demo you attempted to do there, you're not in Windows mode, you're in full screen mode. So you'd have to switch it back to window mode to get that option.
Okay, yeah, and trying to work this in Zoom can be problematic. But this is a good example. There is a bar that runs across the very top of your screen. When you push an app up there, you'll see that. And then this uh, icon, applet will appear, and then you can just choose which one of the snap configurations you want to use. Um, So it will now show three most recent tabs. Snap Assist also will show the three most recent tabs of Microsoft Edge as suggested to snap in the layout. You can also disable the feature from the multi-tasking setting page in Systems section. The resizing apps in the snap layouts, you also see the corresponding app icon on the top of the acrylic background. If you press the Windows key plus Z, it will open the snap layout, and the layouts will now appear with numbers to make them easier. I think I can demonstrate this. So if you do Windows key plus Z, let me get out full screen. Windows key plus Z, and you see right here, those show up. That's one, that's two, that's three, that's four. So you can then choose whichever one of these you want. And this is a Snap Layouts drop-down menu. And there's what I was talking about earlier. So there's also some updates to File Explorer that include several visual changes and improvements. For example, the version ships with new and highly requested features, including support for tabs and redesigned navigational pane. And you'll find a new home page, OneDrive Net integration, shortcuts, changes for context menu, and more. So the recent section holds your most recent files locally stored on the device or in the cloud. Also, the recent and favorites file sections are now searchable using the box in the File Explorer, even if they're not local files. You also can add to favorites through the context menu. It's now available for files and folders, and these contents will appear in the new favorites section above the recent and home. When using a Microsoft work or educational account, favorites and recent files from the office.com will also appear in the home page. The home page can show content from OneDrive, downloads, and virtually from any index location. If files are unavailable locally on the computer, they will show thumbnails and you can share them through OneDrive. Uh, the other thing is changes that pin or unpin files hosted in OneDrive, SharePoint, or Teams will sync and be reflected in Office.com and Office apps. Also, the file activity updates from collaborators, such as edits and comments, are shown in the tiles view and can be shown in the detail view. On the folder option page in General tab, the Open File Explorer 2 options let you decide to open the file manager on OneDrive folder, this PC, or home page. And also, a new Show Files from Office.com option allows you to show or hide recent and favorites on the home page. So here's how it looks now in File Explorer. You see I'm in Home, and here I have my Quick Access, my favorite, and my recent. And on the left side, I have my pinned apps as well. So on the folder options page on the General tab, the Open File Explorer 2 option lets you decide to open the file manager in OneDrive folder, DSP, or home page. And a new Show Files from Office.com option allows you to show or hide recent and favorites on the home page. Um, so to get there, notice here, this is home, this is this PC, and this is user personal. So the three dots in File Explorer here under Options, I now have this applet that shows up. And if I do this drop down, not only do I have home, I have this PC, but I also have Dropbox. I can also open it to Dropbox, and then I can open it to Bill's personal. So this is gives you a little bit more versatility. And what that means is that when you open File Explorer, it's going to open into one of those. Like in this case, when I open mine, it's open it to home. But I could very well have it open to Dropbox if that was the location I wanted. And if I open it to personal, which I have here, this is actually my OneDrive folder. And then as you notice down here, there is a where it says privacy and folder options. I can have it show files from office.com. So File Explorer is finally getting support for tabs. The new tab system works like the experience in the web browser. Instead of having multiple instances of the app, you can now use the one instance of the app to navigate multiple folders and drive locations. I know I used to split my screen when I used File Explorer, but now I can do it with tabs. And here's the example. There's a tab that's open in apps. There's a tab open in this PC, and I can just toggle between the different tabs and bring up those different folders. Um, so there's also a shortcut, so I could use the Control plus T keyboard shortcut to create a new tab, or use Control W keyboard shortcut to close a tab, and you can use the middle button of the mouse to close a tab as well. Uh, I'm sorry, this is jumping around. So when you open the file manager, you'll find a plus button to create a new tab in the title bar, or you can right click a folder and select the option to open a new tab. And when comparing the old and new designs, we can see some improvements. For instance, you can right click a tab to access the context menu with the option to close the current, close all others, etc. And the other shortcuts are Control plus T, which creates a new tab. Control plus W creates a shortcut to close a tab. The default file manager for Windows 11 also comes with a redesigned navigational pane, and the visual changes provide easy access to pinned and frequently used folders and OneDrive cloud profiles. So here on the left side, you can see uh, the navigational pane. The very top is home, and then there's the user, which in my case I use OneDrive. So mine shows Bill James Personal, and then of course here's the other pin shortcuts, your desktop downloads, etc. And then below that section, you'll find this PC. And then to the right of the of that navigation, you'll find what quick access, which used to occupy where home is now, but they moved it to the right side. So when you're navigating to folders synced to OneDrive, the access address bar displays the correct path to make it easier to understand when the folders are on the cloud versus when they're local to you. And then the known folders, documents, downloads, music, pictures, they're no longer displayed under this PC to keep that view focused on the drives, such as you see here. File Explorer also comes with a new OneDrive integration to help you control over storage consumption and ensure your files are syncing. When browsing your OneDrive folder, you can now see your sync status and quota usage without leaving the app, as you see here. There's a little cloud icon to the upper right corner, and you click that, and this box will appear. In 22H2, it has a new task manager designed to match the desktop style. This includes a new hamburger style navigational bar and a new settings page. A new command bar for each page gives access to everyday actions, and Microsoft has even added the dark theme to the new task manager. So here's our new task manager. Uh, and you notice that the navigation is to the left of the window. There's also something called the efficiency mode. Uh, And what that is, oops, um, is it's formerly called the echo mode, and it will come in handy when you notice an app is consuming high resources and you want to limit its consumption, allowing the system to prioritize other apps. And you can apply the efficiency mode by clicking on the command bar on the processes page or right clicking on the process. And you only use the efficiency mode for a single, you can only use it for a single process, not the entire group. If this option is grayed out, it generally means that its core Windows process and throttling might affect the system's performance. So you don't want to uh, put those particular applications in efficiency mode. And you also will notice it'll have a new leaf icon, and there's a new pause icon. And I can kind of show that in my system where that actually shows. So I'm just going to right click in a place, go to Task Manager, and earlier today, when I see there's the leaves right there. So those two, that's the Microsoft 365 app host and Edge, and they are in eco mode. So that actually concludes my presentation, all the words that I created, but I'm open for questions to clarify anything that I misspoke. And thank you for being so patient. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
Bill, on the Windows key tab, when you're showing the running applications, uh, you also should mention at the bottom, it shows you the virtual desktops, which I think is highly underutilized by everybody in Windows, starting with Windows 10.
Yeah, I would agree.
Well, I think many of us who've been around Windows for a long time, I think it's a case where we're so used to having one display and anything we got running sits on top of one another. And I don't think a lot of people understand virtual desktops, that they can spread out your applications over the virtual desktops while in the same machine using the same resources.
Very true. And I don't do it too often, but I have had two desktops running where I could have, my mail and maybe Microsoft Edge running in that particular desktop. And then on my other desktop, running um, Microsoft Office, such as Word or PowerPoint, and just toggle between the two.
Right.
And what it affords you to do, you have less clutter to deal with because you have uh, all the those other applications that you want to keep open. Some people like keeping their mail open so they can, quickly respond to any new incoming mail. Also, if going to their browser, on occasion, if they're doing any kind of research, they can use it on that desktop and then have their working documents, such as PowerPoint or Word or whatever they're using, on another desktop. So, excuse me, it does afford you to be fairly productive and not have a bunch of clutter. And on a laptop, particularly, you have a small screen you're dealing with. And so you don't have all that clutter to deal with.
Right.
Just my opinion.
Oh, yeah, I agree with that. It's kind of a case where you got to remember the features there, and then you got to force yourself to start using it when you're not used to it.
Right. Correct. And it's all, it's just a learning. it's like Windows 11 really has stretched your there's a lot of stuff you've had to relearn to with it, and but I think over time you will these things will. It's progressive. It's like if you came from a former from Windows 10, it's very easily to kind of move into Windows 11. But if you were in Windows 7 and you jump from Windows 7 to Windows 11,
Yeah.
I think you're going to be up. You're really have a steep learning curve.
Well, also
So
from
it's
Windows 8 too.
yeah. I think Bird made a good um, analogy when he was talking about all the different versions of Windows that he has worked with over a period of time. Is that the transition from one from one version to the next version is much easier when you update to the newer version. You know, I mean, it's put that the way he put it, but I understand what he was saying.
Yeah, it's a case where I think some of the people I know having a problem with 11 is all the changes almost potentially month to month or every other month that you knew where something was at, and then all of a sudden it's not there. It moves somewhere else. Like a lot of features that used to be in 10 under Windows Update, all of a sudden most of them appear in the system setting on 11, and you have some others that are scattered over other territories. Also, privatization or privacy settings that changed quite a bit too in 11.
Oh, right. One of the things you have to keep in mind is that Microsoft is migrating most of the controls that was in the control panel to settings. So, as I've told people in my club, I said, if you're going to, well, I was starting with Windows 10. I said, if you need to probably try to work with settings first. If you can't find it there, then go to the control panel. Because the control panel eventually is going to just one day vanish. It won't be there anymore, and you'll
Right.
be stuck with settings. And I think for the most part, almost all of the control panel controls have moved to settings.
I did find myself in a situation where uh, if you're using the onboard motherboard graphics processor, I had to go to control panel, right click on the Intel display icon, put a shortcut on the desktop to get to it easily, because that was one place in some of the early versions of 11 and also in 10 later versions to get my ability to adjust screen brightness. But it's not intuitive either. There you have to go into display and then go into color settings, and you'll find that you can adjust your screen brightness at that level. Now with the 22H2 and 11, they finally gave us back the ability to adjust screen brightness that wasn't there in the prior version of 11 and disappeared in later versions of 10.
Yeah, it's maybe I'm missing what you're saying, but hold on. What am I gonna do?
If you want, I can bring up mine.
Well, hold on. Let me get a full screen here. What I was thinking about, I thought what you were saying is using, see if I can do this again. Try it one more time.
Here, I'll come up first. Uh,
Yeah, it's right here. It's if you go here, you should see your brightness.
well, in
It's
20,
over in your
yeah, I'm getting low resources because I'm a little overloaded. But what I'm getting at is in the old control panel, uh,
yeah, I see.
there's one for, now I can't find it, but it was there before that. But it had to do with Intel display chips. And
Oh,
you would right click that, create a shortcut on the desktop. And generally speaking, that gave you back the ability
but
to handle the display brightness because otherwise it was fixed to what
but
they
my
thought.
question is, what? How is that different from this? If I can get to it.
Well, on yours, now that's the 22H2, and the 22H2 gave it back to you.
Oh, okay, I got you.
And whereas in the prior version of 11 to 22H2, plus for quite a while in Windows 10, uh, they took the brightness control away from you that used to be down there with the sys tray icons. And
Right, and now it's back because you have brightness, and you also have sound.
right.
And for some reason, I can't display that on my. I'm trying to share my screen.
No, you showed it before, so I know what you're talking about. It's just a case where it was inconvenient until the 22H2 came out. Uh, if you felt your system was display was too bright for your eyes, or you were trying to conserve battery power by lowering the display brightness, uh, you would have to go to the control panel to go to the Intel display settings icon, bring that up, and then under color, you would have to see the adjustment for brightness of the screen. And
Right
it's just not
now, on my
intuitive.
laptop, I still have. I use the function key, and I can use the plus and minus brightness, and it will also change it.
Well,
It brings up the
on the that's probably from the 22H2, but prior to the 22H2, the first version of 11 and
you
many
can do it.
versions of 10 don't always respond to the function keys for adjusting the brightness.
Okay.
Some on some machines it will, and some machines it won't. I've got a lot of different machines, and it was driving me nuts that where you couldn't adjust your screen brightness, and there had to be a way of doing it. And I finally found
Yeah.
it in the old control panel for Intel's adjustment of their own graphics processor on the motherboard. But boy, it took a lot of searching to find that and then figure out where it was because it's under color control,
Mm,
which makes no sense to me.
gotcha.
But the virtual desktops, the adjustment of now being able to adjust your brightness and also your sound much simpler than what it used to be is a big improvement. But boy, there's a lot of people that really get confused with a lot of the changes that are occurring even in 11 while they're trying to get rid of the old control panel. And they're moving a lot of things around within settings itself. And that's
Right.
causing a lot of confusion.
And one thing you find with settings is now is a lot more granular than what it was before. Is that you have first of all, they moved everything to the right and then to the left. And then
Yeah,
to the right, you have all these tabs.
right,
And then those tabs will give you additional settings.
right.
So, yeah.
And
Judy,
that,
what were you going to say?
I was going to say, if I tell people, if you know what the word is that you're looking for and you can't find it, just search for it and it will take you right where you used to know how to find it in 10, you will find it in 11. And after you master more of 11, then you will know what you click on to get to it.
yeah, I
But
was
Yeah.
going to
just
bring
One
that
of
searching
the
up.
for
things
it
too,
goes quickly.
one of the things too that I found that's really fantastic is now you can right click on a lot of those things and it'll bring up the settings. You just click on settings and it'll take you right there where it is.
Right.
So if you are in a place where you want to make a change, just right click on it and it'll take you to the settings for that particular function.
I was going to bring up what Judy brought up there. She got ahead of me on that one, but in general, I have a feeling when it comes to 10 and 11, a lot of people aren't used to using the search feature, and as an end result, they just ignore it. Then they complain they can't find what they're looking for anymore. And I have used the search feature myself, but it's something that you have to stop and think for a minute. Oh, I can use the search feature and I can go find what I'm looking for perhaps a lot quicker. But
Mhm.
there's a lot of things that they're changing in 10 and 11 that are trying to force the people to use the search features more than they ever have before. But if they're old timers going back to 8 and prior versions of Windows, they're
Yeah,
just not used to really using that.
I've always
Yeah,
used it. When you search for brightness in 10, it takes you to accessibility. It's an accessibility option.
Yeah, but the accessibility on some of my machines it works, and sometimes it doesn't. That's the
Mm,
headache. And that's where I got into the old control panel and found the Intel settings for your video that allowed me to find the setting in there, and it does work because
that
Intel is controlling it.
was it that
yeah.
what you were looking for? Did you find it in Device Manager?
Uh,
Because
But in eleven,
it's not in Control Panel in 10.
yeah, in 11, you type in brightness, it takes you to settings.
yeah, and it's on version 11, the first version. You go to the brightness, when they put in the HDR stuff, they took out the brightness control. But they're giving you it back now in the 22H2. That's a big difference, but just between the two current versions of 11. So
Right.
there's a lot of characteristics that keep changing. Sometimes it's an improvement, or sometimes it's a give back, is what it amounts to. And I think enough people probably complained about some of the things that they used to be able to adjust, couldn't adjust anymore, or couldn't find the adjustments. And not every machine plays well with some of Microsoft's ideas. And it probably has to do with the drivers. And at least with my solution for brightness, on some of my older systems is through that icon in the old control panel by Intel, because it's their hardware and it's their drivers. So that gives you absolute control.
I'm waiting for 12.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Eh,
You just want that AI.
No, oh no. I mean, there's a picture out there, and what they have of it, we've heard via the grapevine, and it's bright yellow, and it's just way cool looking.
Well, yeah, but 12 is going to be very heavy towards AI.
Um,
Not a joke. It's going to be in everything. Microsoft's already proven it between the browser, Office 365, and a whole bunch of other things are picking up the AI uh, assistant, I'll call it, at the moment.
yeah.
And so you're going to have AI everywhere in Windows 12.
Yeah, I would probably agree with that.
It's just something that's, I think, inevitable, at least at this present time. It's just a case of how long is it going to take to narrow down the field of developers for the AI, because right now it's like you're looking at somebody who's got a shotgun pointed at you, and you're actually seeing a slow motion of all the pellets coming your way. That's AI.
The wild, wild west again.
Yeah, very much. And like several others have put it, whatever you know today, tomorrow it's already changed.
I particularly like the 60 Minutes program on AI. It was written in plain English. And when they talked about the robots and they all ran this way together and then they turned around and I could relate to that. My son played kindergarten soccer and half field, they all ran that way. Somebody kicked the ball, it didn't matter who. They turned around and they did it again. And over time, just like the robots, they learned how to play soccer.
Sure.
And it the exact same way. And I was just mesmerized with that. I thought, how cool. And it makes it interesting when you can relate to something like that in real life.
Yes.
And really? Okay.
Yeah, very much so, Nat. And I passed that same video on to several other people to view for the same reason, Nat. And I thought it was quite interesting what they did reveal. I haven't gotten into BART yet, but more and more that I'm seeing and hearing, I want to play with that. I've been in the chat GPT. I've done Bing. In fact, I was in Tech for Seniors, and somebody brought up a problem, and I did a Bing search there and gave the answer to everybody.
Mhm.
But
One of the groups in Ohio, no, Pikes Peak in Colorado Springs, their Q&A for their March meeting, they asked GPT, they had an extra laptop, and Carrie typed in, the keywords for the question, and then they compared Chat GPT's answer to what they would have normally, how they would have normally answered the question. And I thought that was quite clever. And the Lorraine group in Ohio, the president is way into AI. So I told her about it. It'll be interesting to see if they try it at their meeting. But I thought, what a fun way to use it.
yeah, we had
No harm, no foul.
a presentation in our tips and tricks SIG in February. Normally, we cover a bunch of different apps very similar to Poplock's Windows SIG, but in that month, the whole meeting was just on AI and Chat GPT.
Mm-hmm.
It's really something that most people, I think, at the moment are kind of memorized by and trying to figure out where it's going to go. And at the same time, too, now the writers' strike is on, and part of their strike is about AI. Now, what else is going to be affected by it?
Yeah. Well, one of my youngest daughters, one of her hockey dads told her that his son's high school paper about something was returned with X number of percent Chat GPT. Do it again and do it yourself. And the way my daughter handles it, AP history teacher, her classes are 90 minutes. And if you don't finish in class, you're more than welcome to finish it when you come back to the next class. She hasn't let anything go out of her classroom since it came out. Because we're looking for critical thinking for the the junior high and the high schoolers. Before they can use Chat GPT, they have to know how to think for themselves.
Yeah. And that's one of the concerns of a lot of educators.
Yeah.
It's just one of these things, and it's kind of like back in the days when calculators became readily available.
Mm-hmm.
You couldn't stop them. They one way or another, and then you add in smartphones. They were doing the same thing there, plus doing searches to answer questions, including on tests.
Well, on that 60 Minutes, I think the gal was from USC, and they have a company way back when put a checker together. And Lori said that the English teachers usually use it. She's had history, so she doesn't use it. And it checks to see how much is plagiarized. And they've already got the Chat GPT out. Obviously, the Valencia high school teachers are using it already, and they probably started working on that, and immediately they heard that in their little ear, and it's already out there for the teachers to use.
Yeah, there's for teachers in particular, they've got I don't know who makes it for sure, but there's GPT-0, and that is to help the teachers determine how much is from AI, and therefore the rest is from the student, and graded accordingly.
Yeah, well, it's like the hockey kid. That's not going to happen in Lori's room. Her kids are, well, hers are AP classes, and if you take all the AP classes, you go in as a sophomore in university or college. So they're all going in pure, at least from her high school.
Yeah, it's loose, and with our legislative leaders, maybe in about 20 years they'll get around to regulating it, but until then, it is the Wild West.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing you can do about it much, but hopefully they'll keep working to improve it. And all you can do is cross your fingers and try and correct the AIs when you know something is wrong. Like CCS, according to ChatGTP, disappeared in 2012.
Oh, is that Bob's thing that he came up with?
Yeah.
His question for, yeah, he said APC had 200 groups.
Yeah, and we disappeared in 2012, and we didn't even know it. Nobody told us.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I have a why do I need to back up? Is that the one? That's the one I gave to you guys, I think.
I think so.
And it answers 17 questions, so to speak. And I gave them to Bill and said, would you please do me a Chat GPT? And the first question is, what percentage of people still aren't backing up? And he said, so to speak, I'm sorry, I can't answer that. I only have information up to 2021. Right. So I can't give you I thought, way cool. And I do bullet one sentence, and this was paragraphs of stuff. And I gave it to my group, and I bored myself out of my gourd because I'm not used to, reading everything and just talk about the bullet points. But it was such a hoot. Had all the information, but the conclusion on each one, as it got to the end, it was always the same. But it was a really good job if you gave that type of presentation, because everything in it was true scoop.
Right. It's just a case where a lot of people, I think, really want everything to get up to date on the learning level, but I think Bing still might have the edge there, but we'll have to see how BART works. But BART works on a different way of thinking, I guess is the best way to put it. Whereas almost all the AIs, they go out and do a search and then analyze it and then give you the answer. Whereas Bart says, "I learned all this stuff already. I'm giving you the answer almost immediately." That's the concept of Bart.
Well, in Bob G's presentation, the first one that I saw, the first one that he gave, there's a line from his bio. Well, that bio is on everybody's website from the beginning of time. That one line has been there. And I looked at that, and we were the only two that noticed that. And it just jumped out at me. Well, this guy or gal, whoever is out there looking, it went to one of the computer club websites and found that one little, and it fit in perfectly where it was. And I thought the light bulb just goes on when that happens, when they find something that is out there 16,000 times. So you see, they're out there looking all over the place, whoever they are.
Well, we got sidetracked a little bit. I'm wondering if any of my other people who are here have questions for Bill on Windows 11, and especially who saw Burt Good's presentation at the beginning of the month. Yeah.
Well, I would want to make one comment for people who get the notification that their computer may not be ready for Windows 11. There are more detailed apps that will tell you what about your system is not ready.
Yes.
So you can take more specific action. I posted in chat, why not 11?
Yes. There are, I've known about several of those myself, Nat. The PC Health is a starting point if you're trying to find out what's going on and why you can't go to 11 on your machine. But in many cases, it doesn't give you enough detail. And that's where some of these other applications will give you more guidance as to why it won't work right now. And maybe you can use that information to bring your system into compliance.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, in some systems you may be able to upgrade some components, or you may just need to upgrade some drivers, which is what happened to my relatively recent Intel NUC. It was 11th gen Intel, and it just simply needed some drivers.
in some
And
cases, too, especially for laptops, you may also have to do BIOS updates, which scares the heck out of a lot of people. The bad part about it is if you got the right CPU, it has an alternate version of TPM built into the CPU chip, and the only way to turn it on is through the BIOS. Well,
Yeah.
if your BIOS is the original, it may not be there. But otherwise, if that means you have to do a BIOS upgrade and from the manufacturer, and suddenly you'll have an option in your BIOS setting to turn that TPM feature on, and you're fully compliant at that point.
yeah, because I use PCs that are Intel based and that have very well known manufacturers, usually a BIOS upgrade utility is already built in. Many of them run even from within Windows or
Yes.
from within the manufacturer's updates and utilities app. And it's just the smoothest experience on earth. It'll even back up the old BIOS.
Yes.
So it's nowhere near as scary as it used to be.
Correct. But I have had one fail on me. But outside of that, I know exactly what you're talking about. The BIOS have gotten very simplified and easy to update your BIOS just from within Windows. And in some cases, if you got a slightly older version system, there's an update within the BIOS itself that'll do basically the same thing. It's just that a lot of people don't even know BIOS exist, and they don't want to get into it because they don't understand any of it. And I fully understand it. It's just a case where sometimes you got to bite the bullet. If you want something bad enough, you're going to have to bite the bullet. If you can't answer or understand the problem, then you got to try and find a family member, a neighbor, a coworker, or somebody to give you some guidance to get it over the hump, because it's a one-time thing. And that's the thing with a lot of the settings that you might do in 10 or 11, they're a one-time shot. And if you
Yeah.
go to Linux, like Bob and I are, and so forth, in Linux, there's a lot of things up front which sound crazy as heck. You might have to do them in a very low level manner, but they're a one-time shot. Once they're done, you don't even remember within a week's time what you did and how you did it. But once it's
Yeah.
done, so what?
Well,
Yeah.
that's like back in the DOS days and what, you know, Orv Beach talks about the command line.
Sure.
Could be,
Hey, I use it a lot.
you know, couldn't do that possibly and everything. And you have to have guts to do it the first few times, and then you find the end of the world is not coming.
Well, and
Yeah.
I use command line on Windows systems quite a bit.
Yeah.
There's a lot of tons of built-in tools in Systems 32 folder in Windows that can get a lot of things done until somebody develops a easier to use graphical application to do the same thing. And
Yeah. Speaking of easier to use graphical applications, there is also a little utility you can download. Bill was mentioning some people might need to stay on Windows 10 for a while. And Gibson Research has a little tool called In Control, which will allow you to do that automatically.
mhm.
I just checked the box the first time it popped up and it said, "Thank you so much. We're going to go sit over here on the right-hand side looking at my screen." And I've never been asked again.
That might also work, but
That's
In
the-
Control guarantees it. It sets it up, even in the home edition, it'll set it up in the registry.
Yeah, because my techie grandson was saying, you know, I get this pop-up all the time that I have to go to 11 and I don't want to.
Yeah.
I said, go into updates and security. And I said, read the stupid sentence there that says, if you don't want to do this, because he just does the automatic updates and he never goes in and looks at anything, I guess.
Yeah.
He used to when he was really into tech.
Yeah.
And because I said, and he called me and he said, oh, I hate it when you're right.
But see,
Yeah.
that's the thing. There's a lot of people, and I'm guilty of it myself at times, depending on how much of a rush I'm putting myself in. They don't read what's there on the screen.
Really? Oh my gosh, nobody reads my emails.
Well, nobody reads the end user license agreements either.
Back in the day we did.
Well,
And I had a friend whose name is Eula Herman. I went from kindergarten to graduate. And when we did one of our reunions, I talked about the Eula, and she was totally, completely non-computer. Her husband did all that. And I made a joke about that being her name. And it went, and I thought, oh, that is so sad. But back in the day, we used to read, they weren't 16 pages long.
16.
Now,
That's
you
short.
know, I know, I tell people you have, and there was one group in Arizona that they did not meet during the heyday of the pandemic because somebody read everything that was in the agreement of Zoom. And there was one thing somebody on the board didn't like. So they said, we're not going to have any meeting. We are not going. And so they had, of course, no in-person meetings. And they were one of the few groups that never had an online meeting. They could have used Teams or something like that, but they didn't. They just totally went dark. And they came back. And I was really surprised that they came back. But there was one person who said, we're not doing this. And I went, okay.
Well, I belong to a Linux users group that wants to use open source, and so they use Jitsi Meet.
Right.
And that does solve one of the Zoom problems.
Right.
But
In
it's
fact,
not
several.
robust.
Jitsi is a little bit more fragile than Zoom,
Yeah.
but it can be used by a group where generally most people are a little bit more technically minded anyway, and
Well, it's perfect.
many Linux users are.
Right. And that's perfect for the Linux 6.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, our Linux SIG uses Zoom.
I've given a presentation to the Olympia group. They use Jitsi. No big deal. Bob G
Yeah.
refused to do it.
Mhm.
I'm not doing that. And I thought, your loss.
Yeah.
It's a mindset. There's a lot of Linux users that are purist on open source,
Yeah.
and that creates some problems sometimes. That if you have a computer that has an NVIDIA graphics processor, you got to go with the proprietary software that goes for the NVIDIA graphics, or you're not going to possibly use Linux on that system. So that means you might have to have another system to run your Linux on. But there's other areas too, and Zoom, when we first started out with that stuff, wasn't the greatest in the world, but they've made dramatic improvements over the last several years. But that's like Windows 10 and 11 over all the predecessors. Look at Vista, if you remember that.
I never had any problems
Oh.
with Vista.
I didn't have
Yeah.
so much problems other than it was a laggard because most people didn't have enough horsepower
Yeah.
to really run it well.
Yeah, there was that problem with manufacturers saying that machines were Vista ready when in fact they didn't really have enough horsepower.
Right.
You know, I taught tech classes through high school adult ed for over 20 years. And during Vista, I can remember this poor lady came into class every single week with a Vista problem.
Mhm.
And I was using Vista. I never had any problems, but I had gone out and bought a new computer. Whenever there was a new
Yeah.
operating system, I don't upgrade. I just bought a new computer.
Yeah.
And and I couldn't relate to her in any way, shape. I gave her answers and everything,
Mhm.
but I felt so sorry for her because she didn't know that much about computers. She was just learning with me, and she got so damn frustrated. It was pathetic.
Yeah, if you buy the right kind of hardware, it should survive a couple of operating system major upgrades.
Mhm.
But you have to be careful not to buy anything that's too vendor specific,
Mhm.
anything that's too inbred. I have to say, including the Microsoft Surface, which is a bit, brand specific on a
Well,
lot of things.
be careful. I am a tech. I'm a computer tech, period.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And one of my personal challenges to me is how old of a computer and low grade of a computer can I get, say, Windows 10 to work on, or even 11 now. The machine I'm on right now, talking to you, has a Core 2 quad processor. Those were go back to 2008, so it's about 16 years old. It's got 16 gigs from 4 gigs to 8 gigs to 16, and I'm running 11 on here unsupported because even though I have a TPM module, it's just not going to work with that old of a processor. The machine right next to it doing the Zoom recording is a AMD Phonom processor. Both of them have 4 base cores, but the one I'm on now is Intel. It has no hyper-threading. The AMD has hyper-threading, so it looks like 8 cores and is way faster than this one is. But I'm still running 10 on the other one. One of these days, I might even upgrade it to unsupported 11. But
Yeah, my point, Tim, is that some brands and some models of
Yep.
computers are much more specific in what they were built for. Others are much more generic.
yes, Intel will do a lot of rendering in graphic processing that an AMD may not support. As
Yeah,
one
and
example.
my point is, if you had the foresight to buy something that was more generic, built of more common parts, it stood a better chance and still stands a better chance of surviving an upgrade.
Yeah, and most people, I find, their primary thing is price. They go for the lowest price they can and don't understand how irritated they're going to be when they get the thing home and start actually working with it, how underpowered that machine is because it's running a Celeron or a Pentium. It used to also be the Atom processor. They were all cheap, cheap, cheap. Well, if
Yeah.
you at least get a Core i3, you got half a chance of being satisfied.
Yeah, there's a sweet point, there's a cheap point, there's an expensive point, and then there's a sweet point in between.
Yeah,
There always has been, always will be.
yeah. But that's crazy.
How
Yeah,
many computers do you have in your room where you are, Tim?
Pardon?
How many computers do you have in that room where you are?
At least 36 or better.
Why?
They're all over because I'm a tech. I learn from the machines. I learn what their capabilities are. I learn their characteristics. I've got probably a dozen or better outdated Chromebooks, and I've converted some of them to be Linux only.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got other machines. They are all different kind of vintages, including all the way back to a Pentium 4. And I support Windows XP still, 7, 8, 10, and 11. I don't get much call for the XP 7 and 8, but I've got one guy right now. His wife won't give up the Windows 8. I had a company that was still running XP, but also had some Windows 10 systems, and I had to support his XP. It's it's a crazy little world.
I do love it.
But yeah, I play with it, and I do a lot of virtualization. The system I'm on now, it's got 3 versions of Linux in VirtualBox. The other one has 1 version in VirtualBox, but I've already got to change out drives. I just had in doing the May upgrade, I got 3 laptops that are identical, except for one's got a little bit more memory. And 2 of them had large drives that were hardly being used, and the other one had a smaller drive that was nearly maxed out. So I was doing drive changes, and I go back to 2012 or 13, starting to change to SSDs on almost every machine I've got.
And
And
do you
I
have a
th-
cat?
and the funny thing is, with this 11, I got a machine sitting over here that's got updated Windows 11 22H2 running. It's got an M.2 NVMe solid state drive, 16 gigs of memory, etc. And I'm still using this machine here that's got a processor that's at least 16 years old because it works.
But then it's your favorite right now.
Well, it's not so much a favorite. It's just that I like a challenge, I guess is the best way to put it. This was goes back to my career as a ex-programmer analyst, and having to live with whatever equipment my businesses that I worked for would provide me with, and you got to get real creative at times at how to get around a problem that is not normally supported. And boy, you really have to put on your thinking cap. That's what I do.
Yeah.
My last question is, do you have a cat?
I got 2.
Where are they? They never come in. At my meeting, everybody's cat is behind their head or walking in front of the monitor, and we never see your cats.
Mine usually get in my lap here, and I think before you got on that, one of them was in my lap, but I'm sitting down low enough that you can't see her.
Okay.
She's a munchkin cat, which I never knew about until I had to have a service tech out for the internet, and he was saying that's a munchkin cat, and those things are worth a lot of money. But she was fixed.
Does, and is that the one every single cat looks alike and they have the nose that goes like that?
No, it's what it is a genetic defect in a munchkin cat, and they have she's got very short legs. She's very low to the ground. She after the first year of age, she gained a lot of weight and a lot of she's up to 14 pounds when a female cat normally would be 9 pounds, and she's got a short tail, but she has a lot of characteristics as a munchkin cat that are kind of like a dog. She is constantly asking for food, like a dog would be. And whereas most cats, they eat once about maybe every 4 hours or something like that. If you go in the kitchen, she's there and she's gonna meow until you give her something to eat.
And Bill James has a dog that thinks he's a cat, the way he likes to be, like this against you, like cats do all the time. And interesting. I'm going to have to look and see what that looks like. I have a 16-pound tuxedo, purebred, and he snores.
Well,
people say, "What's that sound?" And I'll say, "Oh, that's the cat's right down here by my chair," and that he's snoring.
Well, that's the thing with munchkin cats. There are people trying to create a purebred out of a genetic defect.
Wow.
And it's I liken the munchkin cat to be very similar to corgis, like Queen Elizabeth II had.
Mm-hmm.
They're the small, short-legged, short-tailed dog that looks kind of heavyweight. It's like a oversized dachshund, in a sense.
Yes, my youngest brother always had corgis.
Yeah, and so that's the way it is. But we're well past our normal quit time. So anybody got any last-minute things?
No, I thought the presentation was very good, very informative, and formed a very nice wraparound for Bert's presentation.
Yeah, Bill, I might talk to you in the future about your APCUG Windows versus Mac presentation down the road.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation, Bill.
It is in
Well,
the
thank you,
on the
Bert. You're
speakers
an
bureau.
inspiration.
Thanks for letting me join you from the West Coast. It was a great show. Bill, as usual, you did a great job.
Well, thank you, sir. I
will say
appreciate
it's a
that.
little scary. I'm trying to learn Linux, and to look at Windows 11 at the same time may be more than I can handle.
Yeah, you're
Okay,
really challenged there.
Well, I'm doing the same thing.
Okay, Bob
Yeah.
Baxter,
Yes,
you need to look at Bill's Linux, or did you attend the Linux workshop in December where Bill did it like he did the Mac? This is how you do it in Windows, and this is how you do it. He did the same thing with Linux, and it makes it so easy to see the transition of your brain that you already know how to do it in Windows. And he translated that to, and this is the way you do it in Linux. And I wanted something like that. He didn't know that. He came up on this on his own. But to me, that's something that you should look at and see if that relates to you in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah,
And it's the YouTube video up on APCUG's YouTube channel. But that's a good way for your brain, to learn Linux, because you can relate to it. You can go, because the light bulb went on, and I have attended every single Linux workshop since November of 2020.
I think I've attended most of them as well.
and this one made sense.
Yeah,
Because,
the other
this is how you do it, and this is how you do it in Linux, light bulb goes on.
The other key thing is, even though I'm in command line and some others in Linux, including the workshop, are into command line too. Like Windows, you can be in command line there too, but you don't have to be. And Linux has improved dramatically just in the last 5 years to the point where many people can go into Linux, strictly graphical user interface, just like on Windows, and feel a lot more comfortable. But
Yeah, I like using graphical interfaces, whatever OS I'm using. But in Linux, I do command line, but nearly everything that I want to do routinely,
Yeah.
I like to just be able to click through on a GUI.
Right.
So I've got that set up that way.
You're right. And usually in Linux, the only time you have to get into the command line much is when you run into a problem. You may only be able to get help via the command line, what commands to put in with whatever parameters to try and correct the problem.
Yeah, if I see advice online that says things in command line, I am conversant enough with it so that I can read and interpret what they're doing.
Right.
At least most of the time. If not, then I'll find another reference in another forum, and usually it'll simplify itself.
Yeah.
And Orv Beach is the command, he's the command guru because he's used it forever. He was a sysadmin for Abbott. And he had, he and his team took care of gazillion Linux, computers and servers and all that good kind of stuff. So he had to. That was how he made his money.
Sure.
When you do a lot of different machines, that's when command line is something you really do have to be doing.
Mhm.
Right. And that's probably part of the reason why I am into the command line too. But I also discovered a lot of tools, even in Windows, that will allow me to either diagnose a problem or correct a problem, but you could only do it by command line. A good example is SFC utility. Well, now there are some graphical user interface apps that you can run to do what SFC / scan now does to find Windows files for the boot up process that have become corrupted and try and correct them. And it's built into 10 and 11, and I have to use it quite a bit because the problem is I'm finding quite often after I get done with an update from Microsoft, I find I've got corrupted files. And if I catch it early, it corrects itself, no further problem. If you let it go too long, it cannot correct everything.
Mm-hmm.
Now you got a problem. Now you got to do an in-place upgrade to correct the whole problem.
And that's a good reason to have some backups. But anyway,
Yes, how true.
we might want to end with that little piece of advice.
I agree. I'm going to stop doing the recording.